Welcome to KQEG and Seven Rivers Sports. I'm your host, Terry Erickson. Each week, we bring you a look at sports, wellness, fitness, and introduce you to some celebrities throughout the greater La Crosse area. Well, today, the spotlight shines brightly on Red Raider softball, one of the best programs in the area by far. Along with me, head coach Nahmie George, Leah Kramer, Beth Meyers. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Well, before we talk about softball, some breaking news that you don't even know about. In fact, I don't think anybody knows about it because just off the press, the Central Red Raider basketball team, one of the top teams in Division II in the state of Wisconsin, all state winners, all academic. Whoa! I don't even think Coach George knew that until just now. What do you think, Coach?
Obviously, I'm happy about that. You know, I'm proud of the girls, and that's something that we spend a lot of time talking about is making sure that you're good students and getting your stuff done in the classroom. And so to get that recognition is always special.
Is that your philosophy? Is that your approach? Student first, athlete second.
Absolutely, without a doubt, and I think these girls would tell you that too. We talk about that all the time, and they know that I'm constantly checking the grade books and constantly looking online to see what they're doing in their classroom and following up to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
At the collegiate level, when coaches are evaluated at the end of the season, one of the components is how their students do in the classroom. That's a key evaluation tool.
For sure. Yeah.
Should that be part of a high school coach's evaluation?
I think it should be. I think that's more important than even in college. You know, in college, especially at the Division I level, a lot of those guys have opportunities that maybe don't involve academics. Maybe they're going to go and play professionally somewhere. For my kids, the majority of them are going to be needing to have those studies in order to be successful in life, and that's what we try to preach to them is the sports is something that we do for fun on the side, but really the reason that you're in school is to get good grades.
Just in case you're wondering, my friend Joel Barron just might add that to your post-season evaluation.
Make sure you show them that sheet of paper then.
I will. Leah Kramer, as we tape this show, by the way, we'll talk more about the season, but as we tape this show, 6 wins. One of the best pitchers in the area. You've led it all 4 years, this being your 4th year.
Yeah.
Talk about the evolution of Leah Kramer as throughout the years and then this year so far.
When I started as a freshman, I was super nervous, and then when I went along my years, I gotten better, but with the coaching, that really helped me get to where I am right now.
What's your strength as a pitcher? Now, I know location is a big part of it and so on, studying batters, knowing what they did the past time they were up, knowing what they did in previous games.
Right.
So a lot of it is from the neck up. Mm-hmm. What's your strength?
Well, besides hitting spots, would probably be getting like my best pitch and like hitting the changeup when I need to. Stuff.
And of course, in a lot of programs, and I think with you, Coach, the coaching staff calls the pitches. All right, let's just say that Coach George or one of his assistants calls the pitch. Mm-hmm. Could be Hans or somebody, and you are not comfortable with that pitch.
Right. I usually just shake it off, like no, and then they'll call a new pitch.
But Terry, I got to tell you, this is something new we're doing this year. Beth is our catcher, and we have put full faith into Beth for calling our pitches. And so every once in a while we'll give her a recommendation here or there, but Beth plays a lot of softball and is very, very smart, understands the game. And so we have just entrusted her with calling. This is the first time, I've been coaching softball for 21 years. First time that I've ever let a catcher call a game on her own. So.
Whoa! Now, what does that say about Beth Meyers, who's a sophomore? And you gave her that incredible responsibility. Can you handle it?
I think I can. I've played a lot of softball, but like Regs, Hans, Nahmie, they all help me calling pitches. And I mean, if it's a bad pitch, Leah just shakes me off.
We use it as a learning opportunity, too. Yeah. If there's times that we can go out there and, she is only a sophomore, so she's going to make mistakes, and we understood that going in. And so if there's something that, that she calls that we don't like, we just talk to her after the inning and say, nah, probably not the best time to throw that pitch or whatever. But, we figure we got Beth for 2 more years, so we might as well get her working on that.
I looked at your stats online. Of course, anybody can look at that. And 9 RBIs. You lead the team in doubles with 5 as we tape this show. You are 9-6, and tied with or right behind Holman, or you're right there with them in the conference. Talk about your progress so far this year.
Well, batting, I started off kind of slowly this year in batting, but I don't know. I improved with the help of my coaches, of course, and my teammates are really role models. They've all been hitting really well, and that kind of like made me start to hit well. If you play with good people, you're going to play better. And I don't know, as a team, we've like all gotten together, we did good.
Well, we talked about with Leah really understanding the game. So many players play the game, and not a lot of them understand the game. There's a big difference between the two. And as a catcher, you have to be as alert and cerebral as the pitcher in terms of knowing who's on base, what they did last year, what their speed is, how many outs there are. Is it a bunt situation? Is this a slapper? Where are your outfielders? What's the score? What's the inning? I mean, more than what may meet the eye.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about that.
Well, it can get confusing sometimes, but I ask the ump sometimes. I'm like, how many outs are there? The easiest things can slip your mind because you're focusing on so many different things. But again, like, if I get confused, I just look over to Nahmie. I ask, hey, what's going on? But I have played a lot of softball, like summer softball and stuff, so I'm kind of like experienced to this kind of stuff, and I've been a catcher all my life.
Good. Well, Nahmie, this is the first time we've ever introduced you as the head softball coach.
Yeah.
You've been on our show many times, and I think, as I've said to you, as a good friend, and as I've shared with our viewers, you're one of our favorites, no question about it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I love coming on here, so keep having me.
Well, just so you know, you have the record number of appearances.
Yes.
It's kind of like Don Rickles with Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show.
Exactly, yeah.
But by the way, Don Rickles passed away recently. I used to watch him all the time.
Funny. He was funny.
You're not as funny as he
No, I'm not. I'm not as clever as he is. Or mean. He was mean sometimes. I'm not as mean as he is. Yeah.
But this is the first thing we've introduced you as a softball coach, and I know taking over for Kevin Colburn, a highly successful program, and he, of course, was on the show. And you said earlier you coached for 21 years, and you felt ready. But wait a minute, this perhaps was a family decision?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being the head coach of the basketball team is already a burden on my family. So in order for me to take even more time away from my family, I definitely had to talk to my wife and make sure that it was something that was okay. The thing was, I was already coaching softball, so it's not like I added anything more. It's just that I'm on a different field now. I'm coaching the varsity instead of the varsity reserve. But, you talk about Kevin Colburn, and pretty much everything that I learned about softball came from Kevin. I coached out of my 21 years, 20 of those years were with Kevin. And he's still at the fields, and he's still right behind us in the dugout and constantly going over there and asking him questions. And he's really helped with the transition. And, he's not the head coach, but he's still very involved in our program.
Well, you are blessed with having 2 veteran assistants. Not a lot of programs are that fortunate.
I would argue they're the best assistants in the state, maybe even in the nation. I mean, the combined softball knowledge that those guys have has made my job very, very easy. They're a resource for me. They're there to help. They make sure to tell me if I do something wrong. We have that relationship where they feel comfortable to come up and tell me if we're doing something wrong, and I know I can always count on them to help me out, because it has been a transition for me. It's a different level, and anytime you move up a level, I've already gotten 3 girls thrown out at home plate because I'm not used to the outfielders being able to throw as well as they can now, and so those are things that I'm learning, but definitely my assistant coaches have really made the transition easy for me.
What specific responsibilities do you give them?
Well, Coach Regner is our first base coach, but he's really our hitting coach. He focuses on the offensive part of our game, and so when we do our hitting drills and we do tee hitting and stuff like that, that's kind of his thing, and so that's his responsibility. And Coach Hansen is our pitching coach, and obviously knows a lot about pitching and really works tirelessly with our pitchers, not just during the softball season, but really all the time. He works with pitchers from all over the area, but really enjoys teaching pitching, and so he's our pitching coach. So really, I'm more of just a game manager when I'm out there because they're doing all the heavy lifting.
And you can, Leah, you can rely on suggestions, advice from either of those two assistants. That's what makes certainly part of your success story.
Yeah, I can.
Give us an idea of what they may share with you.
Like if I'm struggling with hitting, Regs can always be like, hey, you need to do this differently than this. Or with Hanson, if I'm doing like a pitch wrong, that he can like, hey, you need to do this instead.
Good, and I'm sure you get some advice since you're so close to those coaches when you're behind the plate.
Oh yeah, I do. They're always, it's all constructive criticism. Yeah.
Good, and of course, good players have what's called an appetite for learning. And if you don't have an appetite for learning, if you're not open for suggestions, you probably aren't going to improve.
Right.
And that's that I think explains both of you.
Beth is so close to us when she's out there in the field. Sometimes she hears stuff she's not supposed to hear. We always got to be careful with that. We forget that she's so close to us.
And being an umpire, by the way, if you turn to me and ask for suggestions, I'm not sure the other team would like that much, so I usually try not to do that. So we're going to step aside for a minute. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about Central softball and get to know our guests a little bit more. We'll be right back.
After 80 years in our beautiful area, it's easy to find a home that's kept comfortable by Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning. To say thank you, we're celebrating our 80th anniversary in style.
When you install a new Carrier residential air conditioner now until June 27th from our La Crosse or Winona locations, get 50% of your purchase back if there's a new record high temp on July 4th. Call now for complete details.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. Good interview today with head softball coach Nahmie George, along with Leah Kramer, Beth Meyers. Well, as we take the show, 9-6, you are right there in the conference chase, like the baseball team at Central is. 6 conference games remaining before the postseason. Talk about the season to date and talk about what to expect in the remaining 6 games.
You know, we really, so far, have had a really up and down season. We've had some games where we've played really, really well. We've had some games where we've not played very well. And so we're trying to figure out that consistency and trying to figure out how we can play well every day. And I think talent-wise, we can compete with anybody. We just need to have that, as you talked about earlier, that mental aspect of the game and being ready to go and being prepared and being focused. And we're working on that. I think we're growing as a team. You know, we're right there in the top of the conference. We got a kind of a log jam at the top of the conference with 4 teams tied for first right now. That'll be decided in the next couple of weeks here, and so we're looking forward to some of those big games. We have a big game with Toma tonight. Toma played us really, really tough up there a couple weeks ago, and so we know that that's no gimme. They're really, I mean, when you look at softball in the Mississippi Valley Conference right now, top to bottom, I think we're as strong as we've ever been. Even teams like Sparta and Toma, whose record might not be very good, they can upset you. Sparta had us on the ropes. And so there's really never a night off. There's never really a gimme, and we have to bring our focus and our intensity every game in order for us to be successful, and that's something that I've been trying to impress upon the girls.
Well, speaking of success, I've watched Leah Kramer develop as a pitcher and led her in all 4 years, and you've had great coaches, and your work habits are exemplary, and your family support is right there too, isn't it?
It is. Well, my dad comes to pretty much every single game as he can, but my mom, she's there every game too. They don't really miss any game.
She has quite a cheering section. I hear them behind me. They stand right behind me. I hear them cheer for her and encourage her, telling her what pitch to throw and all that. That's always nice.
So you got some assistant coaches behind.
Hopefully they're listening to Beth though. That's
well, if that's the case, Coach, you just got to talk a little bit louder than they do.
Yeah, that's never an issue for me. You know that. Yeah.
Well, as a senior, the last chapter in your senior season, I mean, just like that in New York, it's over.
Yeah, it's going to be hard not playing in college.
Well, and you're going to Western. Talk a little bit
Yep.
about what your future plans are.
I'm going to Western, and I'm going to do the Human Service Associate program, and for job-wise after that, I'm not really sure, as that is really broad to pick from.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to make that decision
Right.
now, but when you think back to your 4 years, and again, it went by awful quick, and it's a little emotional when you think about it, defining moments, regret, advice.
Defining moments would be probably like hitting the winning game to win the game against Holman.
I remember that.
That was
Yeah.
a series. Yeah, that was a big hit.
Regrets would probably be not playing basketball this year.
Oh, there's the basketball coach sitting next to you. You mean he couldn't convince you?
No.
Terry, I tried to tell her she'd regret it, and she wouldn't listen to me, and now here we are. Sitting here in May, and she regrets it. I tried.
Advice. A lot of young people watch the show.
Right.
Even my grandkids, because they have to. Just kidding. But advice for young people as they approach high school.
With any, sports-wise or anything, do as much as you can, because you'll look back and regret it one day that you didn't do something.
Good advice. Well, Beth Meyers, of course, a sophomore, and you have already demonstrated academic leadership. You're a multi-sport athlete.
Yep.
And we've watched you. We've covered games here on KQEG, and you have some leadership, certainly skills and gifts, because you're in DECA, highest honor roll. Is that something that is expected of you from your family?
I think so. My brother and sister are both they're both really smart. They get good grades, and they are athletes. And my parents, they always tell me school comes first, but they expect me to give my 100% in everything I do. And I mean, they're proud, but they kind of expect it too. Yeah.
Does that kind of go along with your philosophy of life that we talked about before we went on?
I mean, I think so.
I mean, your philosophy of life is get deeply involved in things so you don't regret not submerging yourself in all kinds of activities and doing well academically. Does that sort of describe you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I do as much as I can. I'm in getting involved in school and stuff. My parents they tell me to run for office, do everything you can. Also, just because it looks good on a resume and because you make friends, you will regret it if you don't do it.
Seize the moment.
Right.
Don't let anything sort of drift away that you have not becoming involved in. All of us have role models. All of us have people that we've admired through the years. Who would that be with you, Leah?
That'd probably be my grandpa. He was always a role model to me. He always pushed me to do my best. I mean, my dad too. He was always pushing me, and he would yell at me even though, if I didn't do anything wrong, he'd be like, "Hey, you can do better than that." And yeah, I believed him.
Well, now, Leah, that's a form of encouragement.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm sure you appreciate and know that they are your biggest fans.
Right. It is good, but sometimes just frustrating when you kind of want to be just shut up kind of thing. But I appreciate it.
In 4 years, you've played against some really strong teams. Favorite opponent and toughest opponent?
Favorite opponent would be Logan. Toughest opponent probably be Holman around Alaska.
I mean, because of you've struggled on the hill, on the mound, to face those teams.
No, not just me personally. I think overall as their team. I mean we're equal teams, but it's not like Sparta or Toma.
It's always a battle with
Right,
isn't it?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Philosophy of life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're 18 years old. You're certainly you haven't developed all of your thought process yet, but looking back and then looking forward, what have you gathered in terms of your philosophy?
Kind of like I said before, just do whatever you can, as much as you can, because one day you'll look back and you'll regret not doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a recent article that I read just over the weekend. And the title of the article, Coach, was There Are No Sports Seasons Anymore. They overlap. And coaches are to blame for that. Used to be in the fall, you'd say, ask your friend to throw a football around after a Packer game, and now he may say, she may say, well, no, I have a fall baseball. In the winter, you'd want to shoot buckets on the weekend, and now your friend may say, no, I have a camp I have to go to for volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
In the spring, you might want to play catch, but now they say, no, I can't play catch because it's AAU basketball. Wait a minute now. And the author said it's the coach's fault for this sort of dilemma that we face.
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted problem. I think number one is, as a coach in two sports, I feel like if we don't have these opportunities for kids, we're falling behind because everybody else does. And so if I don't have Beth playing AAU basketball, that's going to hurt us in the winter because everybody else is playing AAU basketball. And so I could see where they think it's the coach's fault, but at the same time, my philosophy with the off-season work is I want them working on our sport. But at the same time, I want them to be kids too, and I want them to have time to go on vacation with their families, and I want them to be able to go out and throw football with a friend and stuff like that. And so I try, and sometimes I take some flack for this, but I try really hard to not overbook what we're doing in the summer. In fact, I was just telling them yesterday that we're only going to be working on Wednesdays for softball in the summer because on the weekends they have volleyball, on the weekends they have basketball, on Tuesday nights they have basketball. Their lives are really, really full. When do they get a chance to be a kid and go to a movie and do that kind of stuff? And so
you just reaffirmed kind of what this article said, which is for another show. I realize it, but we're all guilty of that.
Yeah, I struggle with that. You know, it's hard. It's hard to find that balance.
And you will even more when your kids get a little older. Rapid fire drill. You ready? As we conclude the show, rapid fire drill. What would your teammates say about you, Beth?
They'd say I'm a lot of fun, hopefully. I mean, I like to have a good time, but I also like to put in the work. I get things done, and I don't know, I like to play softball.
Well, she's got a charismatic smile. I'm
Always
sure they would
smiling.
say she's fun. And Leah, I'm sure your teammates would say some glowing things about you, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would.
What would they say?
Pretty much so. The same thing like Beth. Like, I think we're pretty much the same when it comes to softball. Like we want to get better and we want to win, but at the same time we want to have fun and not just all seriousness.
And Leah, what is something our viewers throughout the world may not know about you?
Probably like when you first meet me, I probably am like quiet and shy, but once you get to know me, I'm really outgoing and loud and won't stop talking.
That's okay. I mean, that's what it takes. I mean, that kind of personality, I can see it. What would and describe real quickly for us, Beth, as we close the show. Describe a coach you like to play for. Not a name, but just the qualities of a coach.
Encouraging, encouraging. They like to have fun, but they push us to win. Like they are determined to win, and they tell us that we can win. Like, you know.
And so they're upbeat, positive. Something our viewers may not know about you.
I make the best guacamole ever.
Really?
Yes.
There's something missing from our set today, and that's a bowl of guacamole. Next, when you come back next time,
Yes.
you'll bring it.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show today. Nahmie George, head softball coach, Leah Kramer, Beth Meyers. And again, as we tape the show, you have a few games left. We wish you the best for the remaining season, and then we'll be following you into the playoffs.
Awesome. Thank you for having us, Terry.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, we'll be back with some closing thoughts right after this.
After 80 years in our beautiful area, it's easy to find a home that's kept comfortable by Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning. To say thank you, we're celebrating our 80th anniversary in style.
When you install a new Carrier residential air conditioner now until June 27th from our La Crosse or Winona locations, get 50% of your purchase back if there's a new record high temp on July 4th. Call now for complete details.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Well, a great interview with Nahmie George, one of our favorites, the new first-year head coach of the Central Red Raiders softball program, taking them to unbelievable heights, again, in his first year.
Well, a non-conference baseball game on Monday at La Crescent, with the Lancers hosting the Aquinas Blue Goals from the Mississippi Valley Conference. The Lancers erupted for 5 runs in the first inning as Cal Steffes and Brandon Larson each had 2 RBIs. Those runs secured the game for winning pitcher Cal Steffes, who gave up 5 hits, striking out 2 and walking only 2 Blue Gold batters. Ryan Ellingson took the loss for Aquinas. In spite of the hitting of Jess Ondell, who went 2 for 3, C.J. Nolte a triple, and John Salvadelli 2 for 3, the Blue Goals could only plate 1 run and slipped to 14-8 on the year. La Crescent moves to 11-5. Both teams back in action this week as they prepare for the postseason at the end of May. Final score: La Crescent Lancers 6 and the Aquinas Blue Goals 1. Well, we appreciate you joining us each week here on 7 Rivers Sports. I'm your host, Terry Erickson, hoping you will have an enjoyable and a healthy week ahead.